yeah, I've got no direction. Yeah, I just wanna call you.
You said they were red.
Yes, the being at the window was pure red, and very, very black. I mean, incredibly piercing. Just holes in his head.
He communicated to me with a kind of a telepathy, which was so strong. Maybe I was very sensitive, but if it was a radio, he could have turned it to 2 and I would have heard very well, but he turned it up to about 20. So it was like, we're not gonna hurt you! And it was, you know, everything else went out of my head. It was terrifying. It was just almost like a blossom in my head. To be quite honest with you, when I'm outside and I walk and I see crowds of people on Wall Street and Nassau Street, you know, I look at them and I say to myself, I wonder how many of them have been abducted.
Yeah, it's just a flood. I don't know how many people there actually are, but I would estimate at least in this country anyway, in the tens of thousands, probably more.
The screen memory in the classical psychological sense means that the person sees a traumatically frightening event and then softens it by inventing some other story. But this is not that. This is not something that the person makes up, himself or herself. This seems to be an image which is externally imposed into that person's memory by the aliens themselves.
You know, it was just strange to me, and then I realized that they weren't wearing goggles. That was their eyes. And they weren't wearing helmets. That was the shape of their heads.
The thing that they will always start to draw first is the eyes, because the eyes are so arresting. It's difficult to even... You might not remember anything else but the look of the eyes.
The only thing I could really compare it to was that there were like 1950s Italian wraparound sunglasses that went around to the side of his head.
Basically what had happened was I was coming up the stairs, and then the next thing I remember was suddenly walking down the street with these 2 very, very tall blonde men with strange blue eyes.
How am I supposed to know what is coming out under hypnosis? Were they dreams, or was it real? Maybe it's just dreams that have been coming out under hypnosis.
I heard a sound, but again, everything sounded slowed down. I looked over, and both of the other guys in the band were sitting there with their mouths open like O's, you know? And one of them was saying, "Oh my God," but again, everything sounded slowed down to me. Like, "Oh my God," like that.
I felt as someone was pounding on my back, and that's all I remembered. After that, everything was, the next thing I knew, I'm running through the living room, and I knew what had happened. I just didn't remember what happened after that. I remember seeing the curtains, like, blow over my head. First there was the pounding on my back, and then I saw the curtains, like, blow over my head. And that was all I remembered up until, and then I consciously remember running through the living room, and I thought my children were gone, because when I went in there, they weren't breathing. What I thought was the bedroom curtain, in actuality, was a nightgown that went over my head. What the pounding on the back was, I don't know.
I think on one occasion I actually saw these using their forearms to move more quickly. That they were almost like scurrying, almost like an ape kind of movement. These didn't move that way. I've also seen these sort of... Another particular characteristic, I've seen some of them move in like lockstep. Like a bunch of them in a row, just moving completely together as if all their movements were completely coordinated. They'll cock their head from side to side, and also if they get excited, these kind will, their head will start like bobbing or wobbling like that.
He didn't actually walk. He just seemed to kind of float along, which might be important in the animation. The little ones were not the same.
How did the little ones move?
As I recall, they moved just kind of like us. They were doing things, they were busy moving around, whereas he just seemed to flow. He was very, very graceful. And they were not particularly graceful. They were more like little dentist workers or something. The one thing that very clear in every regression, a terrible pain in my right nostril. And I believe what they did was they put an implant in, which eventually came out because I had a hole in my right nostril that bled for about 6 months when I was 12, which was my only physical evidence.
And then someone, one of them, comes over to me with this thing that looks like a pick, a dental pick.
Mm-hmm.
A pick.
Yeah.
And he looks at me straight in the eyes. Those eyes. Do you know that they look wet?
They look wet. Mm-hmm.
What are they going to do? And he comes closer with his instrument and he's putting it up my nose. Ow! He's hurting me.
Okay, now we're going to turn that pain down very quickly. It's just very quick, and now it's gone.
I guess I can describe it like this, that if you were to look in the water, you'd see part of the ship sort of like coming out from underneath the water, and then part of it was in the ground. So sort of like half showing.
To about here. It went,
to where?
yeah, whether there was more to it here.
Right.
You know.
Just point, if you like, because
It went out like that, and it was over to there. And I think that they moved my legs aside too, so it would have better access, but it would come up to about here.
yeah. And then what?
Well, then I didn't, as I said, I couldn't see anything else. It was just there, and I suddenly felt like a pressure sensation around my kidneys. And then, like a moment later, I didn't feel any excitement or it didn't feel sexual at all. Just in the next moment, I had that sort of tender feeling that one has after one has had an ejaculation. I see them now. They're shaking. They're stiff. They can't. They move fast, kind of, but they're stiff. The arms are like straight down at their sides. I don't know. Whether it's like one's being tested or observed or what, but it's like being put into scenarios, like being put into a film. Suddenly you're someplace else in this situation. I remember a couple where I had to make a choice about taking life or not taking life, or having to make terrible choices in that way.
over the bed. I just sort of settle down into it. I'm looking at my hand because it looks like there's this fuzzy stuff all over. I'm looking down, it's all over the middle of me and all over my arms. This fuzzy stuff's still on me, but as I move around, I'm starting to move around and it sort of like evaporates.
Okay. I think at this point, Rusty, I'm going to wake you up, and we can come back to this another time. So when I count from 5 back to 1, at 1 you'll be fully awake, a great sense of relief, and a great sense of accomplishment, a great sense of putting the pieces together that haven't made any sense up until now. So 5, you're starting to wake up. 4, waking up. 3, almost awake. 2, 1, fully awake. How do you feel?
If you ride with me, don't gotta work for the both of us. I'll put you in the driver's seat. Don't gotta hurry in the name of love. In the name of love.